And if you don't have that, then.
Then you better have it.
All right.
There's no.
Hello, everyone.
Right.
We are gonna get started. Welcome to the Executive Committee of Manhattan Community Board 5. I'm the Chair, Brad Sherburne. So we'll get started on our agenda with committee reports. So starting with SLAP. Oh. You're upset.
I'm almost ready. Okay, so I'm just trying to find my my resume in here, but definitely just speaking from my head, Baza is one of our resos, and that one is a lot more straightforward. We just had a standard reso that we had agreed to with the client with the applicant, and so we just sort of passed that as it was written. So Gabby had negotiated that and was sort of agreeable to everyone. And we didn't hear any reports either when we posted, so all good on that one. The other one is the one that we had the most discussion on, which was Boxers. And on that one, unfortunately, the SLA did already approve their renewal license. So it's it's very unfortunate. So we basically agreed to write a letter with the contents here, which essentially says that first they renewed the license without us having the chance to comment, so it's sort of a complaint about that. And then we sort of detailed the conditions that we documented that would have led us to, you know, either recommend denial if it had actually come before us, or you know, come to a very like strict agreement, I guess. And then we asked that they initiate a formal proceeding against the licensee, and then proceed to take other steps, you know, including potentially revoking their license. So that's all. It was kind of a contentious discussion. Basically, I think the one change that we made to the letter going in is that we made it a bit less of we made it a bit more of making a recommendation versus you know, telling them what to do, because obviously we're advisory, so we didn't want to make the language too harsh, but we did want to let the SLA know that, you know, it's definitely a licensee operating sort of in bad faith, we feel. I think that's all on those two.
Any questions? I actually have a question, which maybe is for you, Marisa, which is, have we ever done this before? I don't know that I've ever recall us urging SLA to refuse someone's liquor license like this.
No, I mean, most of the liquor license operators are good actors. This one is not. And has shown that since they've opened. And so it is an unusual and rare.
We did something.
occurrence for CD.
No, 10 years.
And what was the result of that? Does this go anywhere? I'm curious.
It
Well, it goes
is
to the record.
much, yes, you know,
Goes, yeah,
you
but-
know, with some pressure, SLA will hold a hearing, which is much easier to do than having them not renew a license. So it's their way of taking action on an already existing operator as opposed to not renewing their liquor license. What comes of the hearing is, you know, we don't know, but it's sort of the one.
Yes.
It's the practical action to take.
At the 30th Street one, they were sort of lending space out to like a concert or whatever. And so that, like, the Toms got involved. Yeah, it's not living.
Sarah, do you remember the name of the one that you and I did that was like on 54th Street? And they were reapplying, but they had a lot of problems previously. I believe it. No, this was the one with the multiple felonies
Oh,
and like the stabbing,
I do remember that.
right? And so that's why we were like, no, when they tried to reapply with the same LLC. But they, same location, but they, had issues before, and then a couple of elected officials have gotten involved. And it sort of escalated from there, and then it was COVID, so it just closed anyway, but there were a bunch of letters from elected officials, so that was sort of the next of it, at least for that one. But I do think that we're on record as having had issues with them. All right, we reference it.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Comments? Thanks, Ed. All right, next up, transportation.
Well, guess who's doing it? Sorry. That would be me. So, DOT, the Fifth Avenue Association and, the Central Park Conservancy came to us and briefed us on, plan changes to the, on the west side of, Pulitzer Plaza, so the south of the two, Grand Army on the north, Pulitzer on the south. And on the west side, where they're going to do, sort of temporary gravel and seating and tables and, in time for, the World Cup coming up in June. And then there were some side issues, the biggest one being, from their side was that when they were doing this work, and the renovation of Pulitzer, they relocated a city bike dock to, the north side of 59th Street, adjacent to Grand Army Plaza. And it's a terrible location. It blocks views across the two spaces. It creates a bunch of, traffic, issues between pedestrians and bikers trying to use the dock. And, so the Central Park Conservancy was very much against it continuing to be there. DOT had not yet taken a position on where that was gonna go. And then, we also pushed our issue of, if we're gonna be spending this much effort on these spaces, there should be a public restroom. So we had the discussion. DOT originally said they didn't need a, resolution from us, and we said, oh, I think we do. And, so that's what this is. This is a summary of the discussion of the committee and, you know, our two particular issues. And so now we're on record.
Questions?
This is a very word specific question, but it's at least the version I have says resolved, community board 5, ... And then after the second M dash, it says the condition. Should it be approves blah, blah, blah
Oh, this
on the
was the,
condition?
Line 274.
We'll clean that up. That was,
Yeah.
So it should be on the condition.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we went back and forth on what should be, so it ended up being this. Well, this is a compromise.
The condition.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Comments? Yeah, thank you. All right, landmarks, Kevin, you're up.
Hey, everybody. So Landmarks met last week. We had two resolutions this month. The first was the Art Student League of New York building. There's a picture of it in the packet. 215 West 57th Street. It's a beautiful old landmark building. If you haven't seen it, check it out. They want to redo the sign of the building, the sign that actually says Art Student League of New York. Previously, it was raised wooden letters in gold coloring, but those letters have been removed, and they want to replace it with carved letters directly into the limestone above the main entrance. Aesthetically, it's very appropriate for the building, but there was some discussion in the committee about approving a permanent change by carving the name of the tenant into the building. However, the committee thought it was appropriate, given that the carvings would match other carvings that are already on the building, and given the 130-year tenure of the Art Students League within the building. This was approved 1400.
Any questions on that one?
I have a question, Kevin. How much longer is the lease, or what is the lease term? Art students.
That is a great question, and I do not know the answer.
Yeah, I think they own the building.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there you go. Thank you to whoever said that.
Your vice chair.
But yes, it's the discussion was made, you know, hypothetically, if this ever becomes a CVS, or if CVS down the street wants to carve their name into a building, are we going to allow that as well?
Yeah.
And you know, we obviously noted that there are differences here In the schematic drawing, you can see on the fourth floor, they actually have the words painting, architecture, and sculpture carved into the building already. That combined with the long tenure of the Art Students League, we thought it was appropriate and a clear differentiator versus a CVS, for instance.
They've owned the building since 1941.
Checks out.
Thank you, David.
Right.
According to ChatGPT.
A perfect and reliable source. Any other questions? Comments? Karen?
Just to make it clear, they've also sold their air rights. Right, so the developmental site is limited, as well as the people doing the carving are actual teachers. So it's a real point of pride that they're doing it. So just can't find everybody.
Great. Excellent.
Thanks, Karan. That's a great detail. They selected somebody that actually teaches, calligraphy or whatever it's called to do the signage. So it's all good things. The second one is also an easy one. 105 Fifth Avenue, the Folio House. This is a tenant building, but it is both an individual landmark and within the Ladies Mile Historic District. So it is double landmarked. The existing entrance for the tenants above is an Art Deco style entrance that they want to renovate. The current entrance includes a bunch of non-appropriate decor, including glass, stainless steel, and granite. So they want to rip that all out and replace it with something much more suitable to the overall building itself, and also more suitable to the Ladies Mile district. The details, I won't go into all the details, but I pasted some photos into the resolution here as well. You can see kind of the before and after what they want to do. Again, not controversial, approved 1300.
Any questions? Everyone, Kevin, the color photo in the package, that's the after?
That is the after. It's a schematic. That doesn't exist yet, but that's what it will look like.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the cool features is that the pilaster, which I learned is a fake pillar, basically, on the exterior of a building. Close. Am I close, Brett? Sort of.
Close.
Close enough for a non-technical person. Anyway, they're replacing it to match the existing pilaster on the other side of the entrance. So it's going to look much better just aesthetically, but then it's also going to match the general trend within the Ladies Mile and surrounding area. So all good things.
Any other questions? Comments? Great. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Land use.
Okay, so, we had two resolutions this month. One first resolution is 1345 Avenue of the Americas. And this is a Pops Open Air Cafe recertification. And, this is an applicant that seeks for recertification, no material changes to the existing Plaza Cafe. And we reviewed this application in 2023 and recommended denial because of noise concerns and lack of access to seating. So since that time, complaints have continued, including 311 reports, more excessive noise, amplified music affecting nearby residents. There's a large file of complaints on the noise. There has been no meaningful enforcement, noise, or mitigation yet demonstrated by this tenant or the building owner. We also found that the cafe seating continues to function as private restaurant seating only. No publicly accessible seating within the Pops. We, in our resolution, emphasize that public amenities in Midtown Pops remain a priority to us, including public seating and publicly accessible bathrooms. So the resolution is recommending a denial unless conditions are met, including enforceable noise mitigation measures, clear public access to seating when not occupied, consideration of publicly accessible restroom facilities. So it's a denial unless these conditions are addressed. 12 approved and 1 was opposed.
Any questions? Comments?
Sorry, one question. Is this the Quality Bistro alleyway?
Next one.
Okay, so the second one is the DOT application, which includes the Flatiron Nomad bid regarding the major concession for Broadway. From 19th Street to 31st Street, and this would expand their existing concession area to bring more of the Broadway public open space under consistent management, maintenance, and programming. The expansion aligns with Broadway vision and ongoing capital reconstruction. The concession provides funding mechanisms for long-term operations, maintenance, and improvements. We felt that this approach could strengthen management of these public open spaces while emphasizing that they must retain their civic character and not become overly commercialized. That was important to us. We also identified this as an opportunity to incorporate long-term infrastructure improvements, including green infrastructure, permanent utilities, seating and public amenities, publicly accessible bathrooms. So our resolution recommends approval and emphasizing our key priorities: pedestrian safety improvements, city bike relocation, public bathroom access, guardrails against over-commercialization, sustainable measures, continued engagement with the community board, and some also concerns regarding the use of some of these kiosk areas for nonprofits, and also some sustainable measures regarding single-use implements, packing, all kinds of things for the food concessions along the way. So this was a unanimous vote, and that's it.
Questions? I have one. I think you just highlighted probably the 2 at the end, but what were the changes, if any, that we made from the last time this came to us? Just those 2 at the end?
Why do we have to ask that question?
I'm just asking this question. We don't have to bring it up at the meeting, but I'm asking it.
Well, so you brought it up, it's now on tape.
Yeah.
The 2 at the end.
The 2 at the end. Great. Okay, just curious. Any other questions? Comments? Okay, great. Thank you, Nancy. Parks.
Okay, so we had 2 things that we saw. One is our annual post-parade meeting. That is the sort of formalization of the pre-meetings that were many. Honestly, huge shout out to Todd Shapiro and Gail Kelly, who handled all of the parade pre-work and really chasing down all of the information from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is more than we frequently get this early in the year, chasing down all the information. Just a reminder to everyone, a lot of this that we require of them is stuff they have to provide anyway. We just make sure that they are really accountable to us. There were no major changes to the resolution from prior years. It's really just about making sure that their sanitation, cleanup, sound is all set and that they've got their fire lane set up. We did once again ask SABO, who has promised, remember last year's thing said that there would not be back-to-back dates. Unfortunately, the FIFA World Cup is creating a conflict, so there are back-to-back dates again. But we did ask about that. And we passed that 15-000 to approve these post-parade events because they all made a good effort in showing up. And there were not really issues from previously.
Questions? Comments?
And the next one is, the annual not commercial programming for Bryant Park. Which, fairly standard stuff. I do want to flag that, in the past cycle, the past year, we asked them for more detailed information. And they didn't provide as much data. This year, they really, made an effort to make sure that we could visually see how much of the park was being used, both with the footprint, which is something that we very specifically had requested. And so they did provide a diagram. It wasn't day by day, but it was sort of on a typical day with their annual programming, and did provide, more specific information about the park usage for those non-commercial events. Just 2 flags, they did bring up, the use of Placer, which is used to anonymously track cell phone data. So a question came up in our meeting of what is a commercial, tracking tool, was really an appropriate use for a public space. And then that also raised other questions about biometric identification. And then our typical language, whenever we see the normal programming, is just that for any commercial events that are happening at the same time, they're gonna come back to us. If there's any changes in this non-commercial programming, they will also come back to us. And to make sure that we are aware of how many other non-commercial events are happening at the same time. But on the whole, we really applauded their significant efforts toward more data. We still want more, but we are very happy that it was a very much a step in the right direction as far as we were concerned as a committee, and it passed 15-0-0-0.
Questions? Comments? Right. That's it for committee reports. Any other items on the agenda for board hearing? I have one, which is weird. I would like to put in after the parks, just an update from the commercial use task force, just an update on sort of their process. I think they have survey starting more intensely and they'd like to get, people, recruits and people just generally aware of that. So if we could add that to the agenda after parks, where it's part of parks, but it's a separate item.
And is CSQL gonna give a report? Tiffany?
Sure, I can give a report. No rezos as usual, but we did have a really nice meeting. We had Dr. Anne-Marie Sullivan, the Commissioner of New York State for health, mental health, and she spoke about the governor's budget proposal for this next fiscal year, as well as some of the initiatives that they're supporting and working on. So that was really it, but it was a really nice meeting. It was kind of long, very informative. We were able to get a copy of her presentation slides as well. So if anybody's interested, I can give more details with that. That's it. I don't have anything else to report.
And do you want to do a report like that at full board, Tiffany? Up to you.
I don't care. Probably, I don't.
I can put the slides on the CSQL committee page if you want, and you can reference that.
Okay, yeah, that's good. I'll do that. That's fine. I'll give a quick little report and then reference it.
Great.
Okay,
So yeah, let's put CSQL then, I guess just in at the end.
okay,
Great, thank you.
thanks.
All right, next item is the review of CV5 positions on Penn Station. So I'm gonna turn it over to David. You were all shared with a presentation. Don't think the intention is for David to go through the actual presentation today, but just kind of give an idea of what's going on, and then we can talk about next steps after that.
So there was a fair amount of kind of thought and discussion about, we know this thing is coming down the pike. There's a public process. They to select a developer to privately redevelop Penn Station. The results of that are supposed to come out in May. You all may have read that it's a fairly opaque process. But we understand the decision will be made in May by the Amtrak board to make the decision. So we felt like there's so much history on this. It's a complex issue that it would make sense to kind of brief the board on the background and the board's history, as well as, what kind of highlighted issues have been that have been identified, by our committees in the past. and that are likely to come back in a selected developer's proposal. So that's the idea, is like kind of summarized, you know, the whole background on it. There's it's now 5 pages with bullet point summaries of each, you know, which all of you provided me. Thank you very much. And so we will kind of brief everybody with the intention that will have very much time. I mean, they're gonna maybe announce in June that something's happening. We have a July meeting and then we're gone. So to the extent that we want to raise issues, get it into the mix. I think honestly, the intention on their side is to select somebody and just kind of get going, whatever that means. So I felt like our window to respond is relatively narrow. So this way we broke the process up into 2 pieces. So we'll do all the background and history. And then when we come back, you know, in June or whenever it is, everybody will kind of be on the same level of understanding of where we're starting from.
Definitely, yeah, so I think the window that they've told us is it'll be by the end of May, which perfectly makes it so that we cannot do it in our June meeting. It will probably be our July meeting when we have to respond to the selected developer. I did want to raise the idea and sort of put it out there for discussion of when we get that RFP back, you know, presumably we will have to then evaluate it. And so I would like to have us consider taking a shot at kind of establishing that criteria, and, you know, to the effect that, to the extent that it will influence the Amtrak board and their selection, you know, identifying maybe based off of our prior resolutions and sort of reconsidering those as to, you know, what the board still prioritizes, put something forward to sort of start that conversation so that when we get this in end of May, we aren't kind of starting from a scratch as it were.
Yeah.
So I think that would be my preference. I don't know if others feel differently or have a
I
different.
mean,
preference they'd like
do you
to.
think that's different than what's in the package now, or?
No, so essentially, I think rather than a 3-step process, a 2-step process where we have this, everyone hopefully learns and understands and, you know, get some context. And then we just wait for the RFP to be really like selected. I think I'd like an interim process where we try to establish, like, basically we create the criteria that we will ultimately judge the RFP on.
Okay.
And I think, you know, the RFPs, who knows what will come out of it, but I think for now, transportation is the place for that wants to land. It may drift into some sort of transportation land use hybrid, but you're both on each other's committees, so you can work it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and Amtrak actually did a decent job of describing what the goals were in the RFP, or we didn't see the RFP, but we saw what the goals were.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we could even talk about that. I don't know if I had anything explicit in the package, but we could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, part of, not to, you know, give away the punchline, but the real core issues that we've identified are not going to be addressed by the RFP. They're not part of the scope of the RFP. So that's part of what we'll end up talking about at those hopefully.
I just want to say, this particular RFP is going to be more focused on transportation. It's not going to be focused on the surrounding area and land use, which is what, the land use committee had focused on in the past.
Yep.
My question is, do we want to put, this presentation of David's on our website?
I think 100%. Do everyone feel we shouldn't?
No, I think we should.
Okay,
I think we should.
Yeah.
I was wondering, do you think we should have a presentation to the public and kind of a mini public hearing just to present this at our next transportation meeting? We could go over it, people could offer questions, we could get the public maybe more involved earlier on.
Yeah, I'm definitely not opposed to that, and maybe the thing I'm describing and the thing you're proposing are one and the same, or they're like the beginning, like, you know, 2 sides of the same coin, but I think that's great.
So I'm proposing, David, that you consider maybe doing your presentation at the next transportation meeting, and we put it on our agenda, and we invite the public to come and make comments. And, that might be a good kind of beginning. It'll just flesh out certain things about what we think are important. I think that would be helpful, but it is transportation driven, not land use.
Yeah, the only thing I mentioned to Brett is that the RFP allows bidders to incorporate sites outside of the footprint of the station. And
It does.
yeah, so I think Vornado is on one of the teams, and in theory, Vornado could throw into the mix, potential changes to the GPP, we have no idea.
Okay,
But, or somebody
Right.
could propose, some kind of rezoning or something as part of it. We don't know. but-
Moving MSG is now apparently back in the mix in some
Yeah.
regard,
Yeah.
so, it could easily spill beyond just a transportation item, depending on where this opaque process lands.
and there are higher authorities involved now too.
There's.
Well, that's why it's like,
are.
there was a lot of push. That the Amtrak board was gonna make the final decision, and now they're all kind of admitting that it's gonna go to the White House,
Yeah.
so, But we'll see.
Teresa.
Do you want to put the presentation up on the website before full board or after full board?
We won't spoil your presentation, David.
Yeah,
You can unveil it.
I mean, I have a punchline at the beginning, I hate to give the joke away. I could, that we're talking about it, I don't know how you feel about changes to what we'd be seeing next week, but if I didn't put the goals of the, RFP in there, I can add that, so.
Okay, yeah.
The subject.
Yeah, that
we're
might be
talking about.
helpful.
Yeah,
Okay.
not opposed. Yeah. Any other thoughts on Penn Station? All right. Well, yeah, that's about this discussion about Penn Station. Okay, and then the last thing I have on here, and so Yaron put together is the member survey. So we talked about this a little bit before, but essentially, the idea is we'd like to put out a member survey to all of our current members to get kind of a read on how people are feeling, people's thoughts about their work on the committees, the board as a whole, the other things that they think we ought to be focusing on, basically just get a, take everyone's temperature. So Yaron took a first pass at this, which is what you got and which is on the table in front of you. Milan, I just ask if you could track any changes or recommendations that people make for Yaron since he's not here to update it.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. But the idea is, as I'm paraphrasing Yaron here, who allegedly has a lot of experience in doing surveys of this sort, is two kind of priorities of his were brevity, so trying to keep it relatively focused, not asking this long rambling thing, because the longer it is, the less likely it is to get results. And the other thing is, as you'll see, when this goes in, there is no neutral option to be taken on any of these positions, so it's pushing people to take a position one way or the other. Actually, there are three things. And then the third thing is, each of these is meant to be actionable. So the idea is we're not asking questions just to ask them. We'd like behind every sort of one of these questions is a potential action coming out of this. And so we're trying to make this a useful endeavor and not just sort of a rote exercise. So with that, I will open it up to any questions as it relates to the process, or anyone who has other opinions for questions they think aren't on here that we ought to be adding, or questions that are on here that they don't think should be on here, et cetera, et cetera. Melissa.
Yeah, this is just a clarification. I'm assuming that the two committee work sections, like questions, will break out into specifics of, like, people will select which committees they're on so that we'll be able to break out into that level of data, or is it just asking like broadly as a whole?
So we struggled with this a little bit, and because the survey is anonymous, so we are trying to not put people so that people can give honest feedback. And while I do think there are relatively few people with a unique combination of committees, they do exist. And so I think the idea behind this, and I'm not 100% sure I understand the execution as Yaron is intending it for how this gets put out, but the idea behind putting the same set of questions twice is that you can answer it for each of your committees, but I'll have to get back to you in terms of how that's tied so that we can take that information and know that's a comment about, David running his parks committee or his transportation committee terribly, or Nancy doing a great job on land use, no, hypothetically, so.
And if they're gonna identify the committees or?
So that's what just, I'm not, that was the idea was that we could anonymously tie it to committees. But I'm just not 100% sure I actually in this room right now understand exactly how we're doing that, but that's the idea behind it.
I have a comment.
Go for it.
I think it's a great idea, and I think that there's been a change in this board over the past several months to figure out a way to hear everyone's voice and hear their opinion. And this hits that note exactly on the head as far as I'm concerned. So I'm all for it. I can't wait to get it, to find out what I'm doing right or wrong.
We love 360.
Exactly. So is anything, I mean, also you'll have a little bit of time, because I think the intention is, I will, tease that this is coming out in my chair's report, but we'll probably issue the survey sometime in the next like 2 weeks or so. So it's not going out at full board. So if you want to spend a little time and sit with this, think if there's any other questions that you think ought to be on the survey that aren't there, feel free to, circulate that
Well, could there
feedback.
be a comment at the, like, at the end, if someone wants to add a comment?
Yeah, so that's sort of the idea behind the write-in at the end, is it's kind of the catch-all, so people have, it's a two-sided piece of paper.
Okay,
If there's a comment from people that are like, I think it says, if you strongly disagreed with one of our points, tell us why, like, give us the feedback, and then there's some other, optional prompts. Good.
Could we include a question that just, I mean, I know the questions, it is in the committee, but how to elevate new and important issues at my committees, but could there be something added at the end about to capture what we might not be covering at all? There might be missed areas of interest that people might want to address.
Yeah, so that to me was what I had that same idea, which was the second to last prompt in the written, which is what is something the board doesn't spend enough time on. So if there's a different way you want to phrase that, that doesn't capture that, that's what I'd like to try to capture with that written response at the end. If you have other, alternate language. All yours.
I'll think about it. I'll email you.
Thank you.
Anonymously.
Oh, your email won't be anonymous, but the responses will be. Marisa.
Just to say that I think we should go out soon if we want to capture, members that are leaving, which this will be the last, this April will be the last month of their meetings. So technically, May 1st is end date for them, so maybe right after football.
Okay, a good point. Okay, so for some people, it'll be yes. Okay. Anyone else?
Question.
Yeah.
Do you know what the intention was to use Google Forms?
Yes. I would assume so, but I'm not 100% sure why.
Oh, I just feel like it might be tricky to like program this where you could like specify the committee you go. I feel like it could just be like complicated. So I was just wondering, like, from an implementation standpoint, but we don't need to like get into those details right now.
Yeah, I'd say, I'm sure Yaron has thought it out, but I don't know what that answer is. Anyone else? Okay. That's all I have. All right, we're done. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good.